It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when everything started. My sister, Emma, had decided to take her motorcycle out for a ride along the scenic route near the coast. The wind was light. The sky was painted in warm tones of orange and blue, and she wanted nothing more than a peaceful day to clear her mind. She had just finished her last semester of college, and life was finally starting to feel calm. What she didn't know was that calm was about to be shattered. I was inside the house fixing lunch with Mom, while my brother Ryan had just returned home after serving 2 long years overseas as a Navy SEAL. He didn't talk much about his missions, but his presence alone carried a quiet authority. That kind of stillness you could feel when someone's seen things most people couldn't imagine. He was home on leave, and we were all glad to finally be together again. A little after noon, Emma sent a quick text. Taking the old route by the docks. Be home soon, I smiled. That road was beautiful but rough, the kind of place bikers love to roam. I didn't think much of it. But an hour later, her text tone buzzed again. Some guys are following me. My stomach dropped. I showed Ryan the message. He didn't say anything at first, just read it twice, then looked up at me, his calm expression turning sharp. Where is she exactly? He asked. She said the docks, I replied. Without another word, he grabbed his jacket and his keys. Let's go. We sped down the coastal road, the hum of the truck engine filling the tense silence. Ryan's eyes stayed fixed ahead, scanning the horizon like a predator tracking prey. I'd seen him like this only once before, when a neighbor's house had caught fire and he'd run straight into the flames to help. That same unshakable focus had returned now. Meanwhile, Emma's situation was getting worse. 3 men on heavy motorcycles had surrounded her on the highway. Their engines roared like angry beasts, closing in from both sides. One of them revved close to her back tire, making her wobble. Another shouted something crude, his voice drowned out by the roar of exhausts. Hey, pretty girl, nice bike. Why don't you slow down and talk to us? One of them yelled. Emma's heart raced. She wasn't easily scared, but she knew this was bad. The road ahead was empty with no nearby traffic or police. She tried to accelerate, but one of the bikers swerved in front of her, blocking her path. Panic gripped her, but she kept her composure, remembering what Ryan had always told her. Stay calm. Panic makes mistakes. Think first. She spotted the old dockyard gate up ahead and veered off the road, hoping to find someone, anyone, nearby. But when she stopped, the 3 bikers followed her in, laughing as they dismounted their bikes. Where you running off to, sweetheart? One sneered, taking off his helmet. He was tall, with a scar running across his cheek. Another cracked his knuckles and stepped closer. Emma kept her helmet on and backed away slowly, gripping her phone. She hit the call button for Ryan, her voice trembling as soon as he picked up. Ryan! They followed me. Stay calm. His voice came through, deep and steady. Where are you now? Dockyard, she whispered. We're 2 minutes away. Keep them talking. By now the thugs had circled her. One reached for her arm. Don't touch me, she snapped, trying to sound braver than she felt. Oh, she's got fire, the scarred one smirked. I like that. Just then the low rumble of a truck engine echoed down the empty road. Dust kicked up as Ryan's black pickup rolled in, headlights on. The men turned around, surprised. Ryan parked, stepped out calmly, and closed the door with a quiet thud that somehow sounded louder than their laughter. He wasn't in uniform, but everything about him, the posture, the cold focus in his eyes, the way he scanned each man, screamed military precision. Is there a problem here? He asked evenly, his voice calm but carrying an authority that made all 3 men instinctively pause. The scarred one chuckled. Who the hell are you? Ryan took a step forward. Her brother. The laughter died quickly. One of the bikers tried to bluff. We were just talking. No harm done. Ryan didn't even blink. You think surrounding a woman on the highway is just talking? His tone didn't rise, but it got colder. I stayed back, my phone ready in case I needed to call the police, but I knew Ryan didn't need backup. He walked closer until he was just a few feet from the scarred leader. The man puffed his chest. Back off, man. You don't scare me. Ryan smiled faintly, a dangerous kind of calm. That's good. It'll make this easier. Before anyone could react, Ryan moved, fast, too fast for anyone to see clearly. He caught the man's wrist mid-swing, twisted it effortlessly, and the thug dropped to his knees with a cry of pain. Another lunged at him from behind, but Ryan sidestepped, grabbed his jacket, and flipped him onto the ground with surgical precision. The third tried to rush Emma's bike, maybe to flee, but Ryan was already there, blocking his path. He didn't even need to strike. He just stared him down with that piercing seal stare that could freeze blood. The thug's courage evaporated instantly. "We were just messing around, man." "Didn't mean nothing." Ryan leaned in slightly. "You think it's funny to scare women?" His voice was low but lethal. "Next time you pick on someone, make sure her family isn't military." The scarred man groaned on the ground, clutching his wrist. Ryan stepped back and motioned for me to call the cops. Within minutes, the sound of sirens echoed from the distance. The bikers didn't say a word. They just sat there defeated as officers cuffed them one by one. The lead officer, recognizing Ryan, nodded. "Lieutenant Hayes, right? Good to see you back." Ryan simply replied, "Just doing what anyone should do." After the police left, Emma finally let out the breath she'd been holding. She took off her helmet and rushed to Ryan, hugging him tightly. "I thought they were going to hurt me." Ryan hugged her back, his expression softening. "Not while I'm around, kiddo." That night, as we all sat in the living room, the tension began to fade. Emma sipped tea, still shaken but safe. Ryan sat quietly, cleaning the small scrape on his knuckle from earlier. I couldn't help but ask, "How did you stay so calm?" "I thought you were going to lose it." He looked up and smiled faintly. "In the field, losing it means someone dies. Calm keeps you alive." The next day, word spread around town. The local paper even ran a small story. Visiting Navy SEAL stops harassment at dockyard. People started calling Ryan a hero, but he didn't want any attention. When someone asked him about it later, he simply said, "I just happened to be there when my sister needed me." But for Emma, that day changed everything. She started training in self-defense soon after, determined never to feel helpless again. Ryan taught her a few things: how to use balance, how to control fear, how to read danger before it strikes. She learned fast. Months passed, and the memory of that terrifying afternoon slowly faded, replaced by a quiet sense of strength. Ryan eventually returned to service, but before he left Emma with one last piece of advice. Remember, courage isn't about not being scared. It's about standing firm when it counts. The day he flew out, Emma rode her motorcycle again, this time with confidence in her eyes and a small pendant Ryan had given her hanging from the handlebars. It was shaped like an anchor. Whenever she rode, she'd touch it and smile. Not just because her brother had saved her life that day, but because he'd given her something far more powerful. The sun had started dipping toward the horizon when Ryan finally slowed the truck on the way home. The tension in the air had eased, but the silence between us was still heavy. Emma sat in the passenger seat, her helmet on her lap, hands trembling slightly. She tried to hide it, but Ryan noticed. He didn't say anything. He just kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other resting lightly on her shoulder. That simple touch was enough to steady her. Back home, Mom came running out the door the moment she saw the truck. "What happened?" "Why are there police near the docks?" "Is everyone all right?" Emma broke down as soon as she saw her. "I'm okay, Mom. I'm fine now." Ryan gave a short nod. "It's over." Mom hugged Emma tightly, tears in her eyes. She didn't need all the details. She could tell from Ryan's expression that something serious had gone down. He was calm, but his eyes still carried that cold sharpness, the look of a man who'd seen danger up close and hadn't yet shaken it off. Later that night, after the police called to confirm that the bikers had prior assault charges and would likely face jail time, the house finally grew quiet. Emma sat on the porch, staring out at the moonlit road. Ryan joined her, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "You handled yourself well," he said quietly. She gave a shaky laugh. I froze. I couldn't even think straight. Ryan shook his head. "You stayed on your bike, kept moving, called for help. That's thinking straight when your life's on the line." There was a long pause. The ocean breeze rustled through the trees, and the faint hum of crickets filled the silence. Emma turned to him. "You really weren't scared, were you?" Ryan looked out into the distance, his face unreadable. "Scared? Of course I was. You never stop being scared. You just learn how to move through it." She studied his expression. The calm, steady way he spoke, like fear was just another enemy he'd learned to outsmart. "I wish I could do that," she said softly. "You will," Ryan replied. "Fear doesn't disappear. It just changes shape." The next morning, the story spread around town faster than wildfire. People at the gas station, at the diner, at the coffee shop. Everyone was talking about how a Navy SEAL had taken down 3 bikers at the docks. Ryan wasn't interested in the attention. He spent the morning fixing the fence in the backyard like nothing had happened. When a local news crew showed up asking for an interview, he politely refused. "I'm no hero," he said simply. "Just a brother doing what brothers do." But Emma couldn't stop thinking about it. The fear she'd felt, the helplessness, it lingered. That night, she pulled up videos of self-defense classes on her laptop. When Ryan walked by and saw what she was watching, he smiled faintly. "You thinking about learning?" "I'm done being scared," she said. He nodded. "Good. Tomorrow morning I'll teach you the basics." The next day at dawn, they went to the empty park near the cliffs. The sun was barely up, casting a soft orange glow over the grass. Ryan laid out 2 mats and tossed her a pair of gloves. "All right, little sis. Lesson 1, control your stance. Confidence starts in the feet." She laughed nervously. "You sound like a movie coach." He smirked. "That's because it works." For the next few hours, he taught her how to shift her balance, how to escape a grab, how to use her weight instead of fighting against it. It wasn't easy. She stumbled, missed her footing, even fell a few times, but Ryan never lost patience. Every time she failed, he reminded her, failure is just training in disguise. After a week, she started improving. Her punches landed sharper, her reactions got faster, and her eyes stopped darting nervously every time a sound came from behind her. Ryan noticed it, the transformation, the quiet strength building inside her. One evening, after another training session, Emma sat beside him on the tailgate of the truck watching the sunset. "You think I'll ever be as strong as you?" she asked. Ryan looked at her and smiled softly. "You already are. Strength isn't about muscle or medals. It's about what you do when fear grabs you by the throat, and you still stand tall." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "I'll remember that." He handed her a small pendant, a tiny silver anchor on a chain. "This helped me through some tough missions. Keep it. When you feel scared, touch it and remember who you are." She held it tightly. "Thank you." Months passed. Life slowly went back to normal. The bikers stayed behind bars, and the dockyard incident faded into a story people told in whispers, part cautionary tale, part legend. Emma started volunteering at a local youth center, teaching young girls the basics of self-defense. She'd stand in front of the class, her once nervous voice now strong and sure. Ryan visited every few weeks before returning to duty. Each time he'd find Emma out on her bike, confident, smiling, no longer afraid of the open road. One evening, as they watched her ride off down the same coastal stretch where everything had begun, Mom said quietly, "You gave her courage." "Ryan," he shook his head. "No, Mom, she found it herself. I just reminded her it was there." A few months later, Ryan received his next deployment orders. The night before he left, he found Emma sitting in the garage polishing her motorcycle. "You heading out again?" she asked, not looking up. "Yeah, this one's a long one." She nodded, swallowing hard. "You'll come back, right?" Ryan smiled. "I always do." He walked over, adjusted her helmet strap, and said softly, "Keep that anchor close." She touched the pendant around her neck and smiled through watery eyes. Always. When he left the next morning, Emma stood at the driveway watching his truck disappear down the road. The house felt quieter without him, but something had changed inside her. She wasn't the same girl who'd been scared at the docks months ago. She was stronger now, grounded, confident, and unbreakable. Every weekend, she'd ride her bike along the same coastal route, the wind whipping through her hair, the ocean glimmering beside her. People would see her and smile, not just because of the beautiful sight she made, but because there was something about her now that radiated courage. And every time she passed that old dockyard, she'd slow down just a little, glance at the spot where her life almost changed forever, and whisper under her breath, "Thanks, Ryan," because heroes don't always wear uniforms or carry medals. Sometimes they just show up when you need them most. Sometimes they're family.